So you'll notice after our many trips outside of the church for our Time for All Ages, we're back now, at least for today, in the sanctuary. And I have two gifts here. I have this one, and I have this one. And I have two stories that I'm going to tell you about gifts. So the first story is it's a Christmas story, and it's about a family gathering at Christmas time, and they were all required to buy an inexpensive gag gift and wrap it and put it under the tree. And they did a lottery as to who would go first, and that first person would pick a gift, and then the next person could either take the gift from the person that picked one or take one from under the tree. And then they went around with everybody that was present, but there was one gift under the tree that was a larger gift. And one of the young ones present decided that because that was the largest gift there, and it was very much like this one, nicely decorated and looked really nice, that it must have been the best gift there. And so they had their hearts set on getting that gift. In the end, they got that gift, but were extremely upset and disappointed when they opened that gift, because it was not at all what they expected. It was not at all something that they would even have considered asking for. And so they were kind of a little bit misled by the size of the box and the beautiful wrapping, assuming that it must have been something that they would want and would need and could use. The second story I want to tell you is more so about the giver of the gift. And so one of my brothers has always been a joker. Got a good sense of humor and always finds the funny in almost everything. And so my parents, a number of years ago, bought a couple of acres of property outside of Beausejour at the end of this highway, this end of this gravel road, and they had this huge garden, and they were very much living out in the country. And so that Christmas, the very first Christmas in that house, that little house that they had, there was this big present under the tree. There was no tag on it. There was no who it was from, but it was to my parents. And they open this box and pull out two pairs of old jean overalls with straw hats. And they burst out laughing when they saw this, because it was so much that they were now country folk and they needed to dress like country folk. And they immediately looked at my brother and said, "This is from you." And sure enough, it was from him. They could tell just by the gift and the sense of humor in that gift who it had come from. And the reason I bring that up is because we talk today, our scripture today is about the parable of the talents and the gifts that God gives us. But there's another side to that, because there's the gifts that God gives us, but also the giver of the gifts. So I want you to think about that today. I want you to think about how we've all been blessed by gifts from God. And sometimes we see gifts that come in these wonderful, beautiful wrappings and are beautiful gifts, and other gifts that we think might be rather plain. And yet sometimes these plain gifts are just as special, if not more special, than some other gifts. And so it's important for us to remember that all gifts have a place, whether we see them as being beautifully wrapped or just in plain paper. But also to remember the giver of the gifts. And how do we recognize God in the midst of the gifts that we have been given? How do we understand and see God in the midst of the gifts that we have been given? And so I want you to think about that today as we go through the rest of the service. And we'll see you again next time.